let's see, what else was I? Yeah, so they say in the study that in the last 2 years, but particularly in 2020, Twitter has taken the lead by setting the example of what to do in this situation. They seem Twitter taking the lead and setting the example is what they have to say about it. Which seems like a pretty positive way to frame it. It's not that Twitter is taking bold, dangerous steps. They're leading the way and setting the example. Interesting language. So they also cover for social media companies by saying that they simply make mistakes, and they adjust their policy as they go in a lot of these instances to deal with a crisis, PR crisis, or just a general situation that they deem dangerous or threatening to people's health or society, whatever. But they're claiming that, and NYU is claiming that social media companies simply make mistakes. Which is interesting, because let's talk about those mistakes. These mistakes seem to always, they never made the mistake of taking down a New York Times article, and they've never made the mistake of like, for instance, it's just that these mistakes that they claim, like when Twitter and Facebook banned that New York Post article about Hunter Biden and his dealings with China and corruption. That was Twitter and Facebook claimed that, or at least Twitter did, that was a mistake, that they didn't mean to do it that way, that they're just figuring it out as they go along, I guess. I guess we have to treat these companies with kid gloves and give them the benefit of the doubt, which is that they must, they clearly don't mean any harm. They just make mistakes. But those mistakes always seem to hurt people with little power. They seem to always harm people with the least amount of power, and they always seem to, and usually seems to be in favor of more established mainstream news organizations, rarely, I can think of multiple examples of when these mistakes have hurt the little guy or the right wing figure, the fringe character, or in the instance of these kind of mistakes that they claim happening, they always seem to hurt the little guy. These mistakes don't usually seem to hurt the established news networks and established personalities. But at the end they do offer some recommendations. So it's not simply them covering for these social media companies, which seems clearly what they're doing. But then they also go as far as to make some recommendations, such as better disclosure of moderation decisions. So whatever reasons they find to censor someone, they should be more open and transparent about the moderation, the decision behind the moderation, why it was made, who else with similar, they should put it in better context for people. Who else are there? Similar channels who are experiencing the same thing? What else in your niche, in your area of subject matter, are experiencing the same kind of things? Are you being targeted alone? Are you being singled out? Those are nice things to know. Another thing is to allow users to customize and control their feeds. their news feed or how they process the pile up of information on their on their wall of information coming at them. So simply giving people information that if you think, sending people videos and news information that you think is going to keep them on the page the longest, that's not exactly, it's personalized based on the social media company's perspective, but it's not personalized in the sense that they're not actually engaging the person and asking what they want more of or less of, or that should happen more. I know Google does that with news articles and stuff, but it'd be nice to see more of that in different platforms, according to NYU. They want them to hire more human moderators, not bots, and as employees, not as contractors, or not as contracted employees or temps or whatever. They want more bodies on the ground to do moderation. So to make moderation easier and more effective, at least from the perspective of the tech company, and to make it easier for them to do more of this. Because if you hire more moderators, you're just gonna find more excuses for moderating. More moderators, more moderating. I mean, that seems pretty straightforward to me. Let's see. They want both Washington and Silicon Valley to bury the hatchet and find more healthy ways to build trust with each other, and more in particular ways that don't harm Silicon Valley or infringe on their ability to do business as usual. And of course, don't repeal Section 230, but make it conditional, which would mean, if you're a company who doesn't want to engage in any censorship, that you can opt out of the Section 230 and allow people to say whatever they want, as long as you don't do any moderation. So there's some those are their solutions, and they all seem to add up to nothing to see here, and there's nothing wrong going on, nothing suspicious, and we're going to recommend that this kind of thing continues, but more efficiently and with more transparency. Which I suppose, if you're going to do something right, you should do it right. But yeah, I mean, it just seems pretty clear whose side NYU is on in an article like this, and they're not fooling anybody by saying that this is an unbiased. They're not fooling anybody into thinking that this was an unbiased study. I mean, just the fact that it's a New York College instituted study already, like I said before, raises red flags in my opinion about the fairness of the judgment of the people who decide. Who are these people who decide what is and isn't anti-conservative bias in doing this study? That's what I'd like to know. All right, guys, thank you for your time.